Picture this. I'm standing in my driveway at 7:30 in the morning, coffee in hand, watching a tow truck driver hook chains to my car. Behind him, Karen, our HOA president, stands with her arms crossed, wearing that smug smile I've come to despise. She's actually laughing. 3 months ago, I thought this neighborhood would be peaceful. I was so wrong. But here's what Karen didn't know. While she was busy trying to tow my car, I was about to tow her entire empire. My name is Barbara Chen, and I'm a civil engineer. I moved to Riverside Gardens, HOA, in April of 2024, looking for a quiet place to work remotely and maybe finally use that garden plot I'd been dreaming about. I should have known something was off during the home inspection. The previous owner, Mr. Patterson, kept apologizing. "I'm sorry about the HOA," he said. "Just be careful with Karen." I laughed it off. How bad could one HOA president be? Spoiler alert. Very bad. Karen Whitmore became HOA president 5 years ago. She was in her mid-50s, always wore pearl necklaces, and had this way of looking at you like you were gum on her designer shoes. The first time we met was at the mandatory new resident orientation. I walked into the community center and found Karen sitting at a long table, like she was conducting a job interview. "Barbara Chen," she said, reading from a clipboard. "You're in Unit 42 Maple Drive." "That's right," I said, extending my hand. She looked at it like I was offering her a dead fish. "We have rules here, Miss Chen. Lots of rules. Violations result in fines. First offense is $50. Second is $100. Third offense, we begin legal proceedings." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. The first month was fine. I kept to myself, worked from home, started a garden of tomatoes, peppers, herbs. Then came the first violation notice, a bright yellow paper on my door. "Violation: garden decorations exceed acceptable height limits. Your tomato stakes measure 4 feet, 2 inches. Maximum allowed height, 3 feet, 11 inches. Fine, $50. 3 inches. She was fining me over 3 inches. I paid the fine. Cut the stakes down. Told myself it was a fluke. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, violation: mailbox color non-compliant. Fine, $50. My mailbox had been that color when I moved in. I had photos from my home inspection. I went to Karen's house to explain. She barely glanced at the photos. Previous violations don't excuse current ones. 7 days to remedy. I bought a new mailbox, $75 plus $44 installation. The violations kept coming. My front door wreath was too large. My porch light was the wrong color temperature. My trash cans stayed out 15 minutes too long. Each violation, $50. 8 violations in 6 weeks, $400. My neighbor Louise, a retired firefighter, stopped by one evening. "Don't feel bad," he said. "She does this to everyone. Especially newcomers. Anyone who challenges her gets buried in violations until they move." But then came the towing incident, and everything changed. It was a Thursday morning in late May. I had a video conference at 8 o'clock, so I was up early with my coffee. At 7:30, I heard loud beeping outside. A tow truck was in my driveway, hooking up my car. I ran outside in my pajamas. "Wait. Stop. That's my car." The driver held up a work order. "Got a call from your HOA. Illegally parked vehicle." Illegally parked? It's in my own driveway. And that's when I heard her. That laugh. Karen was standing at the edge of my property, wearing a cream blazer and those pearls, filming on her phone. "Good morning, Barbara. Your car has been parked in your driveway for 48 consecutive hours without movement. Per Section 19 of our rules, vehicles must be driven at least once every 48 hours, or they're considered abandoned. My car isn't abandoned. I work from home." "Then you should have read the rules more carefully." She turned to the driver. "You may proceed." I pulled out my phone, found the rule. Each side bakeless may be deemed abandoned not or automatically. And it said designated parking areas, not private driveways. This says may be deemed. I showed Karen. That's discretionary. Karen's smile never wavered. The board has deemed your vehicle abandoned. Driver, please continue. The driver looked uncomfortable. You'll have to call the towing company. Lot fee is $75, plus $25 per day storage. This is theft. This is enforcement. Karen corrected, still filming, and if you don't step back, that's a $200 fine for harassment. I watched them tow my car. I watched Karen walk away, still smiling. And I made a decision. If Karen wanted war, she'd get war. After my conference call, I did what I do best. Research. I requested copies of all HOA financial records. In California, HOA members have the legal right to inspect financial records with written notice. Karen tried to delay. I got an email. Appointments available in 60 to 90 days. I sent another email, CCing the entire board. Per California Civil Code Section 5205, I'm entitled to review records within 10 business days. I got an appointment for Tuesday. While I waited, I did more digging. I pulled property records. I checked business licenses. I drove around the neighborhood taking photos, and I noticed something interesting about Karen's house. Her detached garage had a second-story addition above it, with windows, curtains, an air conditioning unit. Someone was living there. I checked county assessor's records. Karen's property was listed as a single-family residence. No mention of a garage apartment. Karen had an unpermitted dwelling on her property. In how we're counting, that's a big deal. Huge fines, potential criminal charges, and if someone on the HOA board is violating county codes while enforcing HOA codes, that's grounds for removal. But I needed more. Tuesday came. Karen kept me waiting 15 minutes before letting me into her dining room with one box of files. You have 1 hour. California law says I can take photos. You may take notes by hand. No photos. Those terms violate state law. Karen leaned in. Then, swimming. Now, do you want to see the records or not? I sat down and started reading. Riverside Gardens HOA collected approximately $80,000 per year in fees. That money was supposed to go toward maintenance, landscaping, and reserves. But the numbers didn't add up. Landscaping expenses, $12,000 per year. For mostly grass and some trees, that seemed double the market rate. Community center maintenance, $15,000 per year. Administrative expenses, $22,000 per year. Just one line item. Admin contracted services. What services? Who was getting paid? I took careful notes while Karen watched. That night, I searched public records for any business connection to Karen Whitmore, and I found it. Karen owned a company called Whitmore Property Services, LLC, and according to state records, it was a property management contractor. I searched for contracts between Whitmore Property Services and Riverside Gardens, HOA. Karen was paying her own company $22,000 per year. She was writing checks from the HOA to herself. That's called self. It's illegal without full disclosure and membership approval. I checked HOA meeting minutes going back 5 years. Not one mention of Whitmore Property Services. Not one vote. Karen had been embezzling for years. I kept searching. The landscaping company was owned by Diane Whitmore, Karen's sister, who was on the HOA board. The maintenance company was owned by Patricia Sanderson, Karen's friend, also on the board. They were all in on it. I spent 3 days compiling everything. Photos of Karen's illegal apartment, county records showing no residential permits, HOA financial records showing payments to Karen's company, business registrations proving Karen owned Whitmore Property Services, 5 years of meeting minutes, with no mention of contracts. California laws regarding HOA. Board self-dealing. I started with complaints to the County Planning Department, the tax assessor, and the California HOA Oversight Board. Then I sent a certified letter to every single homeowner in Riverside Gardens, all 100 of them. You deserve to know where your HOA fees are really going. I included copies of everything. I hit send Friday evening. By Monday morning, Karen's world would unravel. Saturday morning, I heard angry voices coming from Karen's house. I stepped outside. 3 houses down. Luis was talking with another neighbor. They were holding papers, my letters. They looked furious. More neighbors came out. At least 10 people were standing on the sidewalk, reading the documents. Karen's door opened. She stepped out in her bathrobe, no pearls, and froze when she saw the crowd. "What is going on?" she demanded. Luis held up the papers. "You want to explain why you've been paying yourself $22,000 a year with our HOA fees?" Karen, her face went white. "Or maybe your sister's landscaping company charging double the market rate. Or the illegal apartment you're renting out." Karen's eyes found me. I was standing by my mailbox, coffee in hand, watching. She knew exactly who had done this. These are lies," she stammered. "Really?" Luis pulled out his phone. "Want me to call the county planning department? Have them check that garage?" Karen's face went from white to red. "You're trespassing." "I'll call the police." "Please do," I said calmly. "I'm sure they'd love to see your financial records too." For the first time since I'd met her, Karen had no response. She turned and went back inside, slamming the door. I went back inside and opened my laptop. Email from the county. Inspector scheduled for Monday, June 3rd at 9 a.m. I smiled. Karen tried to tow my car. Now I was about to tow her entire life. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." I set the phone down. Letter threatened. I had documentation, proof, and the law on my side. The war had officially begun, and I was just getting started. What do you think Karen will do next? Drop your predictions in the comments. You won't want to miss what happens when the county inspector shows up. Last time on HOA Street Stories, I watched Karen tow my car over a ridiculous 48-hour parking rule. But while she was busy power tripping, I discovered she'd been embezzling HOA funds, running illegal rental properties, and funneling contracts to her family. I sent proof to every neighbor in Riverside Gardens. Now the county inspector is coming Monday morning, and Karen just sent me a threatening text. But here's the thing about threats: they only work if you're scared. And I wasn't scared anymore. I was ready for round 2. Monday, June 3rd. 9 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting on my front porch with my coffee, pretending to read a book, when the county inspector's white pickup truck pulled onto Oak Street. Inspector Richard Morrison was exactly what you'd expect from a county building official. Clipboard, reflective vest, and an expression that said he'd seen every type of illegal construction imaginable. He parked in front of Karen's house. I watched as he got out, consulted his tablet, and took a few photos of the property from the street. Karen's front door flew open within 30 seconds. She must have been watching from the window. "Can I help you?" she called out, still in her bathrobe. It was 9 in the morning on a weekday, and she clearly hadn't expected company. Inspector Morrison walked up her driveway. "Morning, ma'am. I'm Inspector Morrison from County Planning. We received a complaint about an unpermitted structure on this property." "Mind if I take a look at that garage?" Karen's face went through about 5 different colors. "A complaint? From who?" "Anonymous tip. But we're required to investigate all reports of code violations." He smiled politely. "This won't take long if everything's in order." "Everything is in perfect order," Karen said, crossing her arms. "And I don't consent to any inspection without a warrant." "I don't need a warrant to inspect exterior structures visible from public property. But if you'd prefer, I can come back with law enforcement and a formal inspection order. That usually takes about 3 business days and involves additional fees." I could see Karen calculating. If she refused, it would look suspicious. If she allowed it, he'd see the apartment. "Fine," she said, "but I'm calling my lawyer." "That's your right, ma'am." Inspector Morrison headed toward the garage. I set down my book and walked casually to the edge of my property line where I could see better. Other neighbors were coming out too. Luis stood on his porch. The Johnsons were in their driveway. Word had spread fast over the weekend. The inspector walked around the garage, taking photos, making notes. He looked up at the second-story windows, the air conditioning unit, the separate entrance with stairs on the side of the building. Then he knocked on the apartment door. A young woman answered, early 20s, wearing scrubs like she was heading to or from a hospital shift. She looked confused and scared. "Hi there," Inspector Morrison said gently. "I'm from County Planning." "Do you live here?" The woman glanced back toward Karen's house nervously. I rent the apartment. Is something wrong? How long have you been renting?" "About 8 months. I pay $750 a month." "Is there a problem?" Inspector Morrison made a note. "No problem for you, Miss. You're not in any trouble, but I'll need to inspect the interior of the unit. Do you mind?" The woman let him in. I couldn't see inside from where I stood, but the inspector was up there for about 15 minutes. When he came back down, his expression had shifted from professional to seriously concerned. He walked back to Karen, who was now fully dressed and standing in her driveway with her phone pressed to her ear. She lowered it when he approached. "Ma'am, that's a fully functional residential unit with kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and living space. According to county records, you have no permits for residential occupancy above that garage. It's just storage," Karen said. "Ma'am, there's a tenant paying rent and living there. That's not storage. She's a family friend staying temporarily for $750 a month." Karen's jaw tightened. "I don't have to explain my private arrangements to you." Inspector Morrison pulled out an official form and started writing. "Senora Whitmore, I'm issuing you a notice of violation for unpermitted residential construction and illegal rental activity. You have 30 days to either obtain the proper permits retroactively or cease all residential use of the structure. There's also a fine of $5,000 for operating an unpermitted rental unit. If you fail to comply within 30 days, additional fines of $1,000 per day will apply, and we may pursue criminal charges for code violations." $5,000. I tried not to smile. Karen's face went purple. "This is harassment. I'm being targeted because of a personal vendetta. Ma'am, if you believe this inspection was conducted improperly, you can file an appeal with the county, but the violation stands. You'll receive official documentation in the mail within 5 business days." He handed her a copy of the notice. "Have a good day." He walked back to his truck and drove away. Karen stood in her driveway, holding that paper, shaking with rage. Her eyes scanned the street and landed directly on me. I raised my coffee mug in a small salute. She screamed. Actually screamed. Then she stormed back into her house and slammed the doors so hard I heard it from 3 houses away. Luis walked over to my porch, grinning. "That was beautiful." "That was just the beginning," I said. That evening, I got an email from Karen. "Emergency HOA board meeting, tonight at 7 p.m., mandatory. Attendance for all homeowners?" Mandatory, right? I showed up at 6:55. The community center was packed. At least 60 homeowners had come, way more than the usual 8 or 10 people who attended regular meetings. Karen sat at the head table with her sister Diane and her friend Patricia. The third board member, Doug, looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Karen banged a gavel on the table. "This meeting will come to order. We have serious business to discuss." "Yeah, we do," shouted someone from the back, "like where our money's been going." Karen's face tightened. "There have been malicious and false accusations spread about this board. Defamatory lies intended to damage our reputations and undermine the integrity of this HOA. False." Louis stood up. "I've got copies of the business registrations right here. Whitmore Properties Services, owned by you. Emerald Estates Landscaping, owned by your sister. Patricia's Property Care, owned by Patricia. You've been paying yourselves with HOA money for 5 years. The room erupted. People were shouting, holding up the documents I'd sent. Karen banged the gavel again. "Order! Order!" Those contracts were approved by the board in executive session, which is completely legal executive session. Mr. Patterson stood up. He was 82 years old and didn't raise his voice often, but when he did, people listened. Executive sessions are for legal matters and personnel issues, not for approving contracts that benefit board members. That requires a full membership vote. We don't need to justify our business decisions to— Yes, you do. Another neighbor shouted, "It's our money." I raised my hand. Karen saw me, and her eyes narrowed. "Yes, Barbara, I'm sure you have something to say." I stood up. According to California Civil Code Section 5350, HOA board members cannot enter into contracts with the association unless the contract is fair and reasonable, approved by the membership, and fully disclosed in writing. Can you show us any documentation of membership approval for these contracts? Silence. Karen stared at me. You think you're so clever, don't you? You come into this neighborhood, cause trouble, disrespect our rules. I paid every fine you issued, I said calmly. Every single one. Even the ones for 3 inches of tomato steak and 15 minutes of trash can timing. But paying fines doesn't mean I have to accept corruption. The room exploded in applause. Karen's sister Diane stood up. This is absurd. We've worked hard to maintain this community. Our companies provide quality services at double the market rate. Luis pulled out his phone. I called 3 landscaping companies this morning. Every single one said they could do our neighborhood for $6,000 a year. You're charging $12,000. That's 100% markup. More shouting, more applause. Patricia tried next. You people are ungrateful. We volunteer our time to run this board. Volunteer? Mr. Patterson laughed. You're paying yourself $22,000 a year in administrative fees. That's not volunteering. That's embezzling. Karen slammed the gavel down so hard, it cracked. This meeting is adjourned. No, it's not, I said. According to our bylaws, any homeowner can call for a vote of no confidence in the board. I'm calling for that vote right now. Karen's face went white. You can't. Section 8, Paragraph 3 of the Riverside Gardens HOA bylaws, I said, holding up my copy. Any member may call for a vote of no confidence. If 20% of members present vote in favor, we proceed to a full removal vote. I'm calling for that vote. All in favor of holding a vote of no confidence? Mr. Patterson said immediately. Every hand in the room went up. Every single one, except Karen, Diane, and Patricia. That's more than 20%, Luis said. Way more. We're doing this! Karen stood up, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. I will not sit here and be disrespected in this manner. Running away won't help you. Karen, someone shouted, but she was already gone. Diane and Patricia followed her out. Doug, the 4th board member, stayed in his seat. He looked at all of us and said quietly, I had no idea about the contracts. I just signed what Karen put in front of me. I'm sorry. Mr. Patterson patted him on the shoulder. We know, Doug. You were just scared of her, like the rest of us. We spent the next 2 hours organizing. We scheduled an official vote for the following week. We agreed to hire an independent accountant to audit the HOA finances, and we started the process of filing a formal complaint with the State HOA Oversight Board. I left that meeting feeling lighter than I had in months. We were taking back our neighborhood, but Karen wasn't done yet. Wednesday morning, I woke up to find another violation notice on my door. Violation. Lawn height exceeds acceptable limits. Grass measures 3 inches. Maximum allowed 2 1/2 inches. Fine $50. Second bulletin front door color. Third violation, garden hose visible from street. Fourth violation, welcome mat size exceeds limits. 4 violations, $200 in fines. I measured my grass. It was exactly 2 3/4 inches, within acceptable limits if you used any reasonable measurement. My front door was the same color it had been when I moved in. My garden hose was in the same spot it had always been. My welcome mat was standard size. Karen was making things up now. She was desperate. I took photos of everything, time-stamped and documented. Then I went to work. At lunch, I got a call from the towing company. Ms. Chen, we have your vehicle here again. It was called in this morning as abandoned. What? My car is in my driveway right now. Not that car. This is let me check. A blue Honda Accord. I didn't own a blue Honda Accord. That's not my car. The work order says it's registered to your address. Someone made a mistake. Or lied. I'll be right there. I drove to the tow lot. Sure enough, there was a blue Honda Accord with a license plate I'd never seen before. The registration showed my address, but it wasn't my car. This is fraud, I told the lot attendant. Someone falsified this registration to get this car towed. He shrugged. Take it up with the person who ordered the tow. Who ordered it? He checked his computer. Riverside Gardens, HOA. Contact person, Karen Whitmore, of course. I called the police non-emergency line and filed a report for fraud and false registration. Then I called my lawyer. She's desperate. My lawyer side. That's good for us. Desperate people make mistakes. Keep documenting everything. That evening, I got a certified letter. Karen was suing me for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. She was seeking $100,000 in damages. I called my lawyer again. She laughed. Let her sue. Discovery will be fun. She'll have to provide all those financial records she's been hiding. This is the best thing she could have done for your case. Friday afternoon, I got the final blow. An email from Karen, CCD to the entire HOA. Barbara Chen is hereby banned from all HOA common areas, including the community center, pool, and park, pending investigation of harassment claims. Violation of this ban will result in trespassing charges. She was trying to isolate me, make me the villain, turn the neighborhood against me. But she'd forgotten one thing. I wasn't alone anymore. Weedin and Uri had texts from 15 different neighbors offering their support. Luis organized a petition demanding Karen's immediate resignation. Mr. Patterson contacted a lawyer friend who specialized in HOA disputes, and the county sent Karen another letter, this time about unpaid property taxes on her illegal rental income. The tax assessor had calculated she owed approximately $45,000 in back taxes, plus penalties. The following Wednesday was the official vote. Every homeowner in Riverside Gardens received a ballot. Do you vote to remove Diane Whitmore, and Patricia Sanderson from the HOA Board of Directors? 87 people voted. 84 voted yes. Karen, Diane, and Patricia were out. The meeting to announce the results was packed. Karen showed up in a designer suit, pearls on, makeup perfect. She looked like she was going to war. When Mr. Patterson announced the vote count, Karen stood up. This vote is invalid. The bylaws require a simple majority of voting members, Mr. Patterson said. We had that and more. You're removed from the board. Karen. Effective immediately. You can't do this to me. I built this I made this neighborhood what it is. You're embezzled from this neighborhood, Louis said. You harassed homeowners. You violated building codes. You're done. Karen looked around the room. No one was on her side. Even Doug had voted against her. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but turned back one last time. You'll regret this. All of you. I will make your lives hell. No, I said quietly. You won't. You won't, because you have bigger problems now. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her an email. The IRS received an anonymous tip about unreported rental income. They're auditing you. The state HOA Oversight Board is investigating the embezzlement, and the county is pursuing criminal charges for the illegal apartment. Your life is about to get very complicated. Karen, you won't have time to bother us. For the first time, Karen Whitmore looked truly scared. She left without another word. That night, I was in my kitchen making dinner when I heard sirens. Multiple sirens, coming down Oak Street. I looked out the window. 3 sheriff's vehicles were parked in front of Karen's house. Officers were at her door. My phone buzzed. Text from Louise Turn on the news, Channel 7. I turned on my TV. The local news was covering a breaking story. HOA President arrested on embezzlement charges. There was Karen in handcuffs, being led to a sheriff's car. The reporter was saying something about $45,000 in missing HOA funds and multiple counts of fraud. I sat down heavily on my couch. It was over. It was actually over. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Barbara? It was Karen's voice, shaking. I get one phone call. I used it on you. Why? Because I need you to understand something. You think you've won? You think this is over. But you have no idea what you've started. The people I know, the connections I have, this isn't finished. Not by a long shot. Karen, you're facing criminal charges. You've lost your board position. The county is pursuing fines. The IRS is auditing you. What exactly do you think you can do to me now? You'll see, she said. Very soon, you'll see. The line went dead. I should have felt victorious. I should have felt safe, but something in Karen's voice made my blood run cold. This wasn't over. Somehow, I knew this wasn't over. And I was right. What connections does Karen have? What's her next move? Drop your theories in the comments. Karen got arrested for embezzlement. 84 neighbors voted her off the HOA board. The county hit her with fines. The IRS started an audit. I thought it was over, but then she called me from jail with a threat. You have no idea what you've started. 24 hours later, I found out exactly what she meant, and it was worse than I could have imagined. Thursday morning, I woke up to my phone exploding with notifications. Texts, emails, missed calls, 37 messages before 8 o'clock. The first text was from Luis. Check your front yard now. I grabbed my robe and ran outside. My front lawn was destroyed. Not just messy, systematically destroyed. Someone had spray-painted obscenities across my grass in bright orange paint. My mailbox was knocked over. My garden was trampled. Every single plant ripped out by the roots. And there, stuck in the middle of my lawn, was a sign. Snitches get stitches. My hands shook as I took photos. This wasn't just vandalism. This was a message. Luis came running over. I heard it around 3 in the morning. Thought it was raccoons. By the time I looked out my window, Tay Werrigan. I'm so sorry, Barbara. Did you see who it was? Too dark, but I saw a black SUV speeding away. I called the police. They sent an officer who took a report, photographed everything, and said they'd look into it. His tone made it clear he didn't expect to find anyone, but I knew who was behind it. Karen was in jail, but she had connections, friends, family, and apparently they were willing to commit crimes for her. I spent the morning cleaning up, replanting what I could save, and installing security cameras on every corner of my house. If they came back, I'd have evidence. At noon, my lawyer called. Barbara, we have a problem. Karen posted bail an hour ago. My stomach dropped. Already. How? Her sister Diane put up her house as collateral, and there's more. Karen filed a restraining order against you, claims you've been harassing her, stalking her property, threatening her. It's complete nonsense. But there's a hearing tomorrow morning. She vandalized my property last night. Prove it. She was in jail. She'll say she has an alibi. This was getting out of control. Friday morning, 10 o'clock, I sat in a courtroom across from Karen Whitmore. She looked different. Tired. Older. Her makeup couldn't hide the bags under her eyes, but when she looked at me, there was pure hatred. The judge reviewed Karen's petition. Mrs. Whitmore, you're claiming Miss Chun has engaged in a pattern of harassment. Yes, Your Honor. She's stalked my property, taken unauthorized photos, filed false reports with county officials, turned my neighbors against me, and caused me severe emotional distress. I fear for my safety. I almost laughed. Karen feared for her safety after she'd had my lawn destroyed. Miss Chen, your response? My lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Whitmore is facing criminal charges for embezzlement. Ms. Chun simply reported legitimate code violations and financial irregularities. Mrs. Whitmore is using this court to retaliate against a whistleblower. I have evidence, Karen's lawyer said, pulling out a folder, photos of Ms. Chan's car parked outside Mrs. Whitmore's home on multiple occasions, emails that could be construed as threatening, witness statements from neighbors who say, Ms. Chun has been obsessed with my client. I looked at the photos. They were taken from inside Karen's house, showing my car driving past on the public street. The emails were the ones I'd sent to the HOA board about financial discrepancies, nothing threatening at all. The judge studied everything. Miss Chun, have you been to Mrs. Whitmore's property? I drove past her house on a public street. I live 3 houses away, and I attended HOA meetings at the community center, which is next to her property. That's not stalking. Your Honor, my lawyer added, Ms. Chun's property was vandalized last night. While Mrs. Whitmore was in custody, we believe Mrs. Whitmore or her associates are responsible. This restraining order is an attempt to silence a victim. Karen's lawyer jumped in. My client was in jail during the alleged vandalism. She couldn't have been involved. The judge sighed. I'm going to deny the restraining order. Mrs. Whitmore, your claims don't meet the legal standard for harassment. However, both of you need to stay away from each other. No contact. No contact. No driving past each other's homes, unless absolutely necessary. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, we both said. As we left the courtroom, Karen brushed past me and whispered, This isn't over. I turned to her. Yes, it is. You lost, Karen. Accept it, she smiled. You really think I'm alone in this? You really think I don't have friends who owe me favors? You made an enemy of the wrong person, Barbara, and now you're going to learn that lesson the hard way. She walked away before I could respond. That evening, I got a call from Mr. Patterson. Barbara, you need to come to my house. Now, I found something. I drove over immediately. Mr. Patterson was in his study, surrounded by old HOA documents and boxers. I've been going through old records, he said, before Karen became president, and I found something disturbing. Do you know why I sold my house and moved out? You said you wanted to downsize? That's what I told people. The truth is Karen forced me out. 5 years ago, when she first ran for HOA president, I opposed her. I knew she was trouble, so I ran against her. And I was going to win. I had the votes. What happened? 2 weeks before the election, someone broke into my house, stole nothing, just left a note. Drop out or your granddaughter pays the price. My granddaughter was 16, living with me at the time. I dropped out the next day. Karen ran unopposed. My blood ran cold. You think Karen was behind it? I know she was, because the same thing happened to 3 other people over the years. Anyone who challenged her, anyone who questioned her, they all received threats, and they all backed down. Why didn't you go to the police? I had no proof, just a note. And Karen always had alibis. She's smart, Barbara. She never does her own dirty work, but she has people, contractors, friends, associates, who'll do anything for her, including intimidation and worse. Like what? Mr. Patterson pulled out a newspaper clipping from 2 years ago. Remember, the Johnsons, they tried to run against Karen. 2 weeks later, their house caught fire. The fire department said it was faulty wiring, but the Johnsons swore someone had tampered with their electrical panel. No proof. But they moved out a month later. I stared at the clipping. Are you saying Karen burned down their house? I'm saying Karen has connections, and she uses them. And now you've made yourself her biggest enemy. You need to be very, very careful. I drove home in a daze. If Karen was willing to threaten a teenager to burn down houses, what would she do to me? That night, My security cameras caught movement. 3 figures in dark clothes, approaching my house at 2 in the morning. I called the police immediately, but by the time they arrived, the figures were gone. All they'd left was another message, spray-painted on my driveway. Last warning. Cliffhanger ending the next morning. I was drinking coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Barbara Chen. A man's voice. Deep. Unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Detective Robert Martinez. I'm with the County Fraud Division. I've been investigating Karen Whitmore for the past 6 months, and I need your help. My heart stopped. What? Karen Whitmore isn't just an HOA president. She's part of a much bigger operation. Property fraud, money laundering, illegal rentals across multiple counties. We've been building a case for months. And now that she's been arrested, her associates are panicking, which makes them dangerous. I need you to come to the station today, because I think you're in serious danger. Danger? From who? Karen's business partner, a man named Vincent Russo. He owns half the illegal properties in this county, and he doesn't like people who expose his operations. Barbara, you need protection. Now. The line went dead. I sat there, coffee getting cold, staring at my phone. What had I gotten myself into? Who is Vincent Russo? What is Karen really involved in? Is Barbara in danger? Comment your theories below. Detective Martinez called Karen's involved in county-wide property fraud with a dangerous man named Vincent Russo. My house has been vandalized twice. I'm being threatened, but I didn't come this far to back down now. Time to finish what Karen started. Detective Martinez vir sa atun, inde karakol da bulu, tom, ka, rikiel, ja, lar, ene ortalar, eit, akaklar, gri, si, di, Ms. Chun. You've opened a very big can of worms. Karen Whitmore runs illegal rental operations across 3 counties. Her partner, Vincent Russo, provides the muscle. They've made millions. And I exposed it by reporting 1 garage apartment. Exactly. Now Russo wants you gone. We have evidence he ordered the vandalism. But we need more to arrest him. That's where you come in. What do you need? Karen's records. Everything she has. We know she keeps backups at her house. If you can get us access, you want me to break into her house? No. We want you to wear a wire and confront her. Get her talking about Russo, about the properties. Once she incriminates herself, we move in. My hands shook. She'll see through it. She's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Will you do it? I thought about my destroyed lawn, the threats, Karen's smug face. Yes. 2 days later, I stood outside Karen's house, wearing a wire under my jacket. Police were positioned in unmarked cars down the street. I knock? Karen answered, surprised. Barbara, how bold of you to come here. We need to talk. About Russo, her face went white. I don't know what you're, don't lie. I know everything. The illegal rentals, the money laundering, and I know Russo sent people to vandalize my house. I'm giving you 1 chance, Karen. Help me put Russo away, and maybe the DA goes easier on you. Karen laughed, bitter and cold. You think I can betray Russo? You think he'll just let me walk away? He owns half the judges in this county. He'll destroy me. He is already destroying you. You're facing 10 years for embezzlement. Add conspiracy charges with Russo. That's 20. But if you cooperate. She stepped closer. You ruined my life, Barbara. Everything I built. My position, my reputation, my freedom, all because you couldn't handle a few HOA rules. And now you want me to help you? I want you to do the right thing. The right thing. Karen's eyes filled with tears. I created opportunities. Jobs. I managed properties that gave people homes. Was I perfect? No. But I wasn't the monster you made me out to be. You embezzled $80,000, Karen. You threatened people. You had my property vandalized. Russo did that. Not me. I told him to leave you alone, but he doesn't listen. He's insane, Barbara. And now he's coming after both of us because you couldn't mind your own business. Where is he now? Karen's eyes widened. She'd realized her mistake. Get out of my house. Tell me where Russo is. Get out. Tell me, or you'll go down with him. Karen grabbed her phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them about Russo, about the properties, about everything. Karen's hand shook. Then she lowered the phone. He's meeting his associates tonight. 9 o'clock. The warehouse on Industrial Drive. They're planning something big. Something that involves you. What? I don't know. He doesn't tell me everything. But Barbara, her voice broke. Be careful. Russo doesn't make threats. He follows through. 9 o'clock. I wasn't at the warehouse. Police wouldn't let me near it. I was at the station, watching through monitors as SWAT teams moved in. They arrested Vincent Russo and 6 associates, seized documents, computers, evidence of fraud spanning a decade. It was the biggest property fraud bust in county history. Karen was arrested again, too. Her confession on my wire was enough. Detective Martinez came to find me. You did good, Miss Chen. Really good. Russo's going away for a long time. So is Karen. What happens now? You go home. You live your life, and you never have to deal with Karen Whitmore again. It's September now. Karen pleaded guilty to embezzlement and conspiracy. She got 8 years in state prison. Russo got 25. Riverside Gardens elected a new HOA board. Patterson as president, Luis as treasurer. They dissolved all the corrupt contracts, hired legitimate companies, and reduced our fees by 40%. My lawn grew back. I planted a new garden: tomatoes, peppers, herbs. The stakes are as tall as I want them. And my car, it's been parked in my driveway for 72 consecutive hours. Nobody's said a word. I still think about Karen sometimes, about how one person's need for control destroyed so many lives, including her own. But mostly, I think about this. When someone tries to tow your car over a petty rule, don't just get mad. Get evidence. Get organized. Get justice. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's the law. Thanks for following this story. What HOA nightmare have you experienced? Share in the comments, and subscribe for more HOA Street Stories, because the drama never ends in these neighborhoods.